Hello, hello, and welcome to the BellaConnections Podcast. Today we have our special guest Umar here who's going to be talking to us about confidence on camera. Umar is an excellent person to be speaking about this. The first time I met him was actually at a Copy Accelerator event where he stood up and gave, I don't even know what the speech was at this point, it was so many years ago, but I just remember everyone in the room, myself included, was like, holy biscuits, this guy is like the Scottish motivational speaker that we all have needed in our lives. So just hearing Umar, go from his incredible marketing background and now stepping further into supporting people with getting more confidence on camera, being able to speak in live settings, being able to create reels, being confident in your interviews and everything and beyond. I'm really excited to have Umar here today, and we're looking forward to getting to know you more. So thanks for being here, Umar. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, Michelle. And it's funny you mentioned when I stood up at that event back in 2022, I was actually talking about charity. The first day, it was the first day of the event. They were talking all about investing, and I just stood up and on my soapbox, literally the proverbial soapbox, and just started talking about charity. And I just spoke from the heart. It was nothing that was scripted or anything. And that's a thing that I'm actually going to get into as we get into the call about in this workshop, into why a lot of the times when we speak, either when it's not scripted at all and it is scripted, it's a huge difference in getting to that Goldilocks point where you're right in the middle. But to start us off, what I want to do is I'm just going to begin by sharing my screen.
Let's do it.
So what I'll be talking about is camera confidence. So that is how you can go from being nervous, freezing up, and having that self-doubt when you're showing up on camera to getting to the point where you are a magnetic authority. So this is a complete system, whether you're a coach, whether you're a consultant or an expert, and whether this is something that you'd like to improve on for the purpose of getting on interviews, on sales calls, or on the other end, if you're looking to film content. So whether that's reels, VSLs, webinars, any type of content at all. So just to begin with, so this is mainly if you're, let's say, a coach or a creator and you know your stuff, but you struggle on camera. You're this expert when you're on calls, let's say with your client, when you're helping them out, you're doing such a great job at helping them. But where you fall flat is where you struggle is where when you're showing up on camera, when you're not sure about what you're saying, when you don't have that confidence to really put yourself out there and to really let the audience know who you are, really connect intimately with them. And that's the thing.
It can feel incredibly uncomfortable. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it can feel very uncomfortable. No matter how many times you practice and try, like it's a hard thing to constantly get over. So I appreciate you sharing. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Of course, no, absolutely. Because the thing is, I've been public speaking since I was 5, which I'm going to mention later. So the thing is, a lot of that sort of nervousness and the nerves that come with that are something that I don't really struggle with as much now. But I understand when you have that, it's almost to the point where you're almost about to throw up in some cases, where you're that nervous, where you're that worried about how people are going to see you, how they're going to think about what you're delivering. And it's that lot, not having that confidence, and no matter how much you try and become confident, you've still got that nagging feeling in the back of your head where you're still worried about how you've just got these nerves. It's just a massive tanglement of emotions, to put it lightly. And here's the thing: if you stick around till the end, what I'm going to give you is not just these complete slides, but also 2 exclusive bonuses, which cover exactly what I teach my one-on-one coaching clients. So that's the exact system that I use, not only just to eliminate the pre-call nerves in a matter of minutes, but also those techniques that will transform you from being awkward on camera or freezing up to becoming magnetic and becoming charismatic. And it's not a case, and I want to make something clear, this is not a case of you changing who you are, but it's actually a case of you amplifying who you are. Because what these techniques will do will make you better, and it will make you have the ability to show up more confidently on camera, be perceived as more of an authority than you are right now, while keeping your personality intact. So we're not changing you from somebody who is no matter what way you like to show up on camera, I don't want to change that. All I want to do is add in some techniques and some mindset reframes for you to amplify who you are. And for that to show up on camera.
Would this a lot of this also apply to live speaking and live events? Because I know when I've gotten up and spoken in groups, I completely freak out and black out, and I'm like, what just happened? So would a lot of your techniques also be supportive for live experiences?
Of course. So here's the thing, which I didn't mention in this slide here, is everything that I teach about camera confidence now is actually based on what I'd learned myself and what I had mastered with public speaking. And what I've done is I've taken everything I know about public speaking over the last 25 years and I've adapted it to camera confidence. So of course, everything I'm going to be talking to you about here, which is camera confidence, is actually totally applicable to anywhere you need to speak. So whether that's in front of the camera or in person, it applies all the same. And thank you for bringing that up, Michelle.
Thank you.
So here's the camera confidence problem. So you know your stuff, you get your results for your clients, but the problem is when that camera turns on, all of a sudden your nerves are showing up and it's almost like they're at 100. So it's really amplified, all those nerves that you have. So you're using filler words here and there, you're really stumbling with what you're saying, and you're still, and at the same time, while you're saying what you're saying, your mind is like a bullet train with all those words going on. Do I sound credible? And then the thing is, if this isn't something that you're doing live, if it's something that you're recording, you've still got the nerves, but on top of that, now you actually need to film 10 takes, 20 takes, no matter how many takes it takes to get just the perfect take. And that's the problem. You have all this experience, but it's not being translated on the camera. So it's not showing up. And that's a big problem because you have all of this value to share, but people aren't getting it. So here's some myths that I want to talk about before we even get into the mindset and the techniques and everything that I want to show you. So number one, you're either naturally confident on camera or you're not. And this is a huge lie because camera confidence is something you can learn. It's not something you're born with at all. And it's not something I was born with either. And if you look at the majority of people that you see who have a skill or a talent that you would like to see in yourself or like to be good at as well, in the majority, 99% of cases, you'll notice that that person who's good at that skill spent years to get to where they are. So they spent years and years on end to become the overnight success that they are today. So, for example, Michelle, when you saw me speaking in public, speaking at that event, it might have crossed your mind, oh, he was probably just like that as soon as he came out of the womb. He was like that from day one. He was always good at public speaking. So and as an example, not to say that that's what you're thinking, but if
Maybe. Like, man, I'm so jealous. No, I'm kidding. I can see how it is a lot of practice though. And I hope you didn't just pop out of the womb speaking like that. So
no, I didn't. I didn't at all. But that's the thing. A lot of the time, it's very easy to think, oh, this guy's natural. And even if we put public speaking to the side, if we talk about any skill, somebody who's great at writing, somebody who's great at sports, somebody who's great at any industry. So whether they're an accountant or they're a creator or they're a influencer, whatever they are, it's easy to think that that's just how they were. But that's not the truth. The truth is they spent years to get to that point where they are now. And you're seeing the tip of the iceberg, all of that effort that's culminated into where they are today. But you're not seeing the rest of the iceberg below it, where they've put all that hard work and effort when nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
And myth number two, and this comes to creating content. So I need expensive equipment to look professional. Well, here's the thing. What I've noticed lately, especially if you go in places like TikTok and Instagram, is that a lot of people are now making videos and reels in their car, because now what's happening is everybody's using this fancy equipment and it does have its place. But at the same time, you want to be more relatable. When you speak to an audience, you want to, and your audience and your potential customers, your prospects, when you speak to them, you want to speak to them like you would explain something to a friend or somebody at a bar. That's the kind of way that you want to come across. Because if you come across as somebody who's a million miles away from them and somebody who's so far ahead of them, then they're not going to be able to relate to you. So that's very important, to be able to relate with them. And number three, confident people never get nervous. Well, that's not true. Even before this call, there was a slight hint of nerves when I was practicing and when I got on this call. But the thing is, I have a few ways to deal with this, which I'm going to be talking to you about later. And that is the key to getting over all your nerves, to understanding that you actually have value to give. Because once you realize that you are somebody who is valuable to others, that you have valuable value to share, that you have experiences that are unique, that you have skills and case studies and things you've done that set you apart from everybody else, that's when you'll be at the position where you won't need to worry about what anyone else thinks. Because the reason, for example, that I'm here on this call today is because, of course, I have something of value to give. So if you're on stage, if you're on a call, if you're filming a video, whatever the case is, if you're filming content, there's a reason that you're doing this, because you have something that many other people don't have. And that is actually the first step. Number 4, I should memorize everything I'm going to say. So here's the thing. A lot of people treat a speech or slides or whatever they're going to present as notes, like they would prepare for an exam or their SATs. But the problem is, if you come across with that, if you come with that approach, you're going to show up very robotic. You're going to stumble across your words when you forget them. You're not going to know what you're saying. You're going to lose all of that authenticity that you would have if you had found that balance between being scripted and just playing it by ear or winging it. Because there's a method to the madness that I will be talking about later. And I know I'm saying that quite a lot. I'll be talking about it later. But there is a lot that we're going to cover, and I'm really going to break down everything for you. So myth number 5, if I mess up, I have to start over. Well, here's the thing. If you have ever messed up on camera, most people won't have seen it or thought of it in the same way you have. Because a lot of the time, most of us are just passively listening to what the other person is saying. We're not always actively listening. So in terms of 90% of what we say is going in one ear and out the other, especially with all this with the attention span of a goldfish that we have today, thanks to TikTok and Instagram and all the reels we're watching and all the doom scrolling we're doing it. Don't lie. I know I do it, and so do you, Michelle.
Just a little on occasion.
Fast forward to this evening, and Michelle's just in bed, just scrolling, for hours and hours on end.
Oh God, no! I've tried to set new habits to adjust that, and if I'm going to be on there, doing something that is productive for the goals I'm trying to achieve. But what you're saying makes sense. I mean, we're competing on attention. People want authenticity. They want somebody who's going to be showing up and somebody they can relate to. So it's not just about pretending like you're this big up here person anymore. It's just being yourself and attracting the people who are going to align with that, or are going to align with you and what you have to offer, because everybody has something to offer. They have some sort of value or education that they can lend to others.
Absolutely. And here's a perfect example, which is actually about me. So I've been on a couple of podcasts the past few weeks, and what I realized is, when I did one of my first podcasts earlier this last week or the week before, even the way I was showing up was very tense. I was very serious. I wasn't showing off my personality. And at the end of the call, I realized that I was actually trying to put on a mask when I was in front of the camera. I was trying to show up as somebody that I'm not. But here's the thing. Everything that's different about me is exactly what's going to separate me from everybody else. Because if I try and pretend like I'm somebody else or try and act like I'm somebody else, the problem is I'm going to lose everything that makes me unique and everything that will draw people to me. Because there's something that each of us has that will draw people to us, and we'll only know about it when we actually show our true selves off, when we're happy and we're okay with people seeing all our quirks and things we may not be comfortable with. And a lot of that does come down to what we had as a child. So if we were in school or high school and people made fun of us for a specific reason, sometimes that stays with us. But we don't need to let it still stay with us even at this point that we are right now, because now we're at a point where we're talking to people who are adults, people who want something different, people who like things that are unique, things that are out there. And you are then in a position now, if you're going on interviews, if you're filming content, whatever you're doing, this is your chance, within reason, of course, to put yourself out there and to really show off what makes you different and to demonstrate it as well. And lastly, talking fast shows I know my stuff. So sometimes we like to think, if I can just in 2 minutes add as much as I can and explain as much as I can about what I know, people are going to think, oh, this dude's a genius. I need to listen to him. And everything he says, is gospel or whatever. And, every time he's on the ceramic throne, he's pooping, unicorn dust. But here's the thing. The more slowly that you speak, and here's the thing, it's a matter of actually adjusting it based on what you're saying. So right now, what I'm saying is incredibly important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down. I'm going to tell you that speed is nervousness. Anytime you speak fast or you talk fast, people will know that you're nervous. It's just natural for somebody who's nervous to speak really fast. But if all you did was slow down, and that's actually the first technique, which I'll get onto, if all you did was slow down, then immediately people are going to start listening to what you're saying. And here's the thing, whenever we listen to anything that someone's saying, so Michele right now is listening to me speaking. And here's the thing, she is listening to me through her own filter, through her own biases, through everything that's based on her own experience and her life experience. So a lot of what I'm saying is just getting filtered out, and she's only paying attention to a specific portion of what I'm saying. And here's how you know that's true. Because if you watch even a TV show like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or any TV show you like, or even a movie like Final Destination or Mission Impossible, and if you watch it the second time, what you'll notice is the second time there'll be a bunch of things that you'll pick up on that you didn't pick up on the first time. Why is that? Because your brain was tuned into specific things in the movie when you were watching it. Now that you're watching the second time, you're coming at it with a different angle entirely because you've already seen the movie. So now anything that you didn't pick up the first time is going to be more noticeable to you. And that's the thing. That's why we need to slow down, because if we just keep speaking really fast, then everything is going to get filtered out. But as soon as we slow down, and especially when we have something important to say, that is how you're going to get attention and how you're going to bypass that natural filter. So there's two sides to the equation when it comes to camera confidence. So number one is a mindset, and number two is a camera confidence techniques. And you can't have one without the other. So here's the thing, you need both. So if you have the camera confidence techniques, but you don't have the mindset, then you're going to have very weak delivery. And if you have the mindset, but you don't have the techniques, then the problem is you're going to have unclear communication. And why is that? Because you need two sides of the equation. Now, what does it mean when I say mindset? So mindset is understanding your unique value proposition. Now that covers, that's not just the marketing term of trying to differentiate yourself, not at all. It actually goes a bit deeper than that, because it's all about you as well and what separates you from everybody else, what makes you different, your quirks, everything that's special just about you. And there's actually a really good book called Pitch Anything by a dude called Umar Khokhar. And he talks about how whenever you're going into a sales call or talking to somebody, you need to understand that you're the prize. You're the prize and the client needs you. So you're the most important thing that they need. Now, here's the thing. To understand that you're the prize, first of all, what do you need? Well, you need to have conviction in what you bring to the table. So here's a problem that I see a lot of people having. When I ask them, what's the best case study you have? What makes you different? Why should I even work with you? A lot of the times they'll fumble it because they're just trying to think on the spot. So because they're thinking on the spot, they're going to say something different every single time. So they don't actually know with conviction what makes them different. They'll say, well, it's because I helped this client and, well, I helped them double their sales. And this other client, well, I help them do that. That is not the way to understand what you bring to the table. So if you were to ask me, Umar, what do you bring to the table? I can tell you right off the bat, I have 25 years of public speaking experience. I have used my skills in sales when I was selling luxury vehicles in London, England. Then I also have camera confidence expertise that I've transferred from public speaking into camera confidence. Next, marketing copywriting skills. So I have experience writing video ad scripts, whether that was Facebook ads or YouTube ads, for 7- and 8-figure coaches and consultants. And lastly, I've went on a personal development journey where I really wanted to be better at everything I could possibly do. And when I wrap this all together into one thing, which I call camera confidence, which doesn't actually get to the heart of what I do, but it's just a wrapper I use to wrap everything that I bring to the table. That's how I know that I'm valuable enough. I can't speak. See, the things that you go through are the same things I go through as well. It's not like I'm this demigod that has this incredible skill public speaking and I'm so much better and I never make mistakes. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. It's the fact that Michele, I want to hear your take on this.
Well, you're making it makes you relatable to them. It makes people like see you, and it breaks things up too. So it breaks up what's going on, but it also brings them, to bring them back into focus, but also it makes you relatable, which is important. It's important, like you were saying, on interviews as it is, recording content, is that authenticity and being yourself and, being able to laugh at yourself for it or whatever it is, however you react to it without approaching it in a manner where you're kind of ego focused and have to defend yourself and all that kind of stuff. Because when you are acting as your true self, you're not only attracting the right people if you're, generating content, you're not and VSLs and all that kind of stuff trying to attract customers. But if you're also in interviews doing the same thing, you're going to be, attracting yourself to the right businesses and the right team. If you put on the mask, like you were saying before, and you're just pretending to be this person that you think that they want to hear, and you're just so perfect, you don't ever make mistakes, you don't ever do this and that, like you're actually more often than not either repelling them or you're going to be having gone in with misconceptions. So it's a lot harder to maintain who you're not than just being who you are and being authentically you and having the right expectations from the start on both sides. And that translates into interviews, it translates into content creation and into anything that you're doing in front of a camera where you're trying to speak with people and be yourself and convey a positive message or whatever your message might be.
Absolutely.
So,
and I love how you had so much to say. Because
sorry.
that just that actually demonstrates exactly what I said earlier. If you speak slowly, if you coherently put together arguments and you explain why you do what you do and you explain everything in detail, but not too much detail, not too little, just right in the middle, the sweet spot, then what will happen is everybody will start listening and understanding what you're saying. Because just like you demonstrated right now, Michele, what I was able to do was bypass a good part of your filter when you're listening into what I'm saying. Because you, for word, almost repeated almost everything that I said for the last 20 minutes. And that proves this works. Because what I'm doing is I'm speaking slowly. Because I'll demonstrate, if I was to speak fast, here's what I would do. So the Mindset Foundation, I know your North Star. So before any technique, you need to know to your core what makes you different from everybody else. Why should someone learn from you? So you see, that's what happens when
what did you say? No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
No, it's all good. See, that's the thing. I'm being relatable. See, I'm not trying to put this front that I'm somebody who's really serious, who's really what's the word for it? It's a word of somebody who's kind of like a straight shooter. Somebody who's like a straight shooter who who's not going to be this relatable person. And that is exactly not who you want to be. And if it's your personality, I feel sorry for you. But the thing is, most of us, we don't want to change ourselves to show up on camera. And a lot of the advice we get usually sounds like we do need to change ourselves. But we don't actually need to change ourselves at all. All we need to do is start using some techniques. So here's the thing. Number one, like I've already said 100 times, slow down. So the solution actually is if you speak at 70% of your normal pace. So normally we like to rush on camera. The nerves make us speed up even more. It's totally natural. But what you need to understand, if you put this right into if you try and bake it right into your skull, that slower speech equals more authority. If you think about it in that way, then anytime you show up to an interview, you're on a sales call, you're filming content, you'll naturally then slow down. That's the first thing you need to do before you use any of the techniques I'm going to show you. You need to slow down. And if all you did was even just slow down, well, you'd be doing more than 50% of what it takes to be charismatic and to be authoritative on camera. That is the number one key. And here's why this works. So this gives you your audience time to process each point. Like I said, so Michele has been listening the whole time, and I haven't even let her get a word in. So because I've been speaking so slowly, her mind is starting to fill up with all the information and absorbing it, and I'm bypassing all the filters by speaking more slowly and using other techniques that I'll get onto. Now, because I'm doing that, what happens is it makes you more thoughtful, intentional, and you'll notice I don't actually use filler words at all. And anytime I'm about to use a filler word, what do? I pause. And I'm just doing it again and again. Now, you don't want to keep pausing. That's not what I'm saying. But anytime you feel like an or and or anything's about to pop up, you just need to stop and pause for a second. And actually what it does is, when you're speaking to an audience, a lot of the time they're almost in a trance because they're just listening to you on and on and on. But as soon as you just stop for that second, you'll grab their attention, and then you can move on to something more important that you're about to get to, so that they are then stopped right in their tracks. That trance is kind of cut, kind of like when the DJ cuts the music and everyone just stops and asks what's going on. That's exactly what you're doing. You're stopping, you're cutting that trance right there at that point in time, and now you're getting their attention. So what do? Well, number one, you pause, like I said. So anytime you have an important point to make, anytime you have something really meaningful to say, you just need to pause and then start speaking about that point and start mentioning that point. And after that, what you want to do is you want to use an emphasis. So what did we say? We said slow down. That was the first thing before you do any of this. Then you pause. So after you've paused, what you want to do is you want to then use emphasis. So if I have something, so here's the thing. I've spoken to some people who have a sort of a monotone voice, or they think, or they notice that a lot of times when they speak, it's sort of like a monotone. It's monotone and there's no up and down. There's no rhythm to what they're saying. What can they do? Well, I told those coaches and experts, they don't actually need to change their voice from a monotone voice to more of a rhythmic voice, or whatever you want to call it. What they actually need to do is just add emphasis. So think of it as droplets that you're adding on to certain parts of the sentence. So if I was to speak monotone, let's say the 3 core techniques, technique 2, the emphasis rule. Well, that's totally monotone. But if I said the 3 core techniques, the emphasis rule, even though I'm monotone, all I did was just add some emphasis, and that changed things up. Then I say the problem. Everything sounds flat when nothing is emphasized. The solution. Strategically stress keywords to make points memorable. So I'm being really monotone here, but what I'm saying is, even if the thing is, you're not going to have that voice immediately, and that's okay, because all you need to do is change up how you're speaking. So you add pauses, you add the emphasis, and that's how you change up that rhythm of your voice. So it's no longer monotone. It won't be monotone anymore, because what you're doing is you're actually adding rhythm to it artificially by pausing, by using an emphasis. And here's the thing. When you're saying something in an interview or on a sales call, you want to say, oh, my client got 3 new clients in 1 week. And or any point you say, they made $100,000 in this amount of time. Because the problem is, if you treat everything the same, if you don't add emphasis, you don't add anything to what you're saying, then why will someone want to pay attention to it? So you need to force them, and you need to really grab them by the ears, not literally, but proverbially grab them by the ears and really make them listen, make them perk up and listen to what you're saying. And that's the key. And the last thing.
Oh, can I just add to that emphasis real quick? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but the emphasis.
No, go ahead. Please do interrupt.
It's super important. I think also is that something that I've noticed with clients when they're recording BSLs and things like that, or even myself if I'm reading from a script, I tend to emphasize the wrong things. So the emphasis needs to be really clear on what you're emphasizing. Like, I really appreciate, the slowing down. I can see how that would clear out some of the ums and all that kind of stuff. It gives you more time to think and people to listen, but also, and having that pause in there too, but also that where you emphasize is super important. And if you're unsure And especially if you're going to record a really long VSL, record yourself like reading through it a few times and see what that looks like. Because the end result, more often than not, what you end up emphasizing in, if you're just like nervous and reading off of it, is not what you intend to convey. And it is really important what pieces that you are, like I saw in your last slide there, you had some really great examples of where to put the pause,
Yep.
and that, you know, and to like lead into that next really important message. And I think that's just something that really gets overlooked, especially when you're reading from a script and you're nervous. So it's something that, you know, practice and stuff like that, but this is really valuable for that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I've seen it happen a lot.
No, you made a
And,
great
and
point.
you know, you record a 60-minute VSL, you don't want to do that a million times. So yeah, just be careful of that.
No, you're absolutely right, because it's so important for you to film yourself when you're practicing this and you're trying all these techniques. Because the problem is when, let's say if I'm speaking right now or you're speaking right now and you're using that emphasis, you're using the pause, the problem is you won't actually know how effective it is or how good you're doing it until you record yourself and listen back to it and watch yourself. Because there's so much that we do when we're on camera, the hand movements, the gestures, our voice, the pauses, that we won't even know about until we watch ourselves on camera or recording ourselves. That's the key to doing it. You're absolutely right. And especially, let's say they're filming a VSL and they want to make sure that they're really captivating the audience, they're really grabbing their attention, and they're doing all the right things. The easiest way, exactly like you said, take a portion of it. It could be even 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long, whatever the case is. Take that and take an important point, especially a part where maybe you're introducing the product, or you're introducing the case studies, or the results, or even social proof, whatever it is. Take all of that, and then what you're going to do is then you're going to read those specific sections, so even 2 or 3 sections, whatever it is, and just film 2 or 3 minutes worth of content or of the VSL. Then listen back or watch what you're seeing, and see how well you're using the pause, how much of an emphasis you're using, how much of the downward inflection, which we're going to get onto, how much of that you're using. Because there's certain key points as well that you need to know when to use more of those techniques and use them more often. So it's not just a case of it, and what you said is absolutely right. You need to know when to use it in terms of the sentence and the specific words. And there's also specific sections that you need to know where to use it. And that's equally as important, not just when you're filming content, VSLs and webinars, but let's say you're in an interview. And in the interview, for example, they ask you about, for example, they use what's called some companies like to use the STAR framework. I can't remember what it stands for again. The STAR method, you know, what is it, situation and...
Yeah, let me look it up. I use it, but it's basically putting somebody in a situation, finding out what the issue was, how they resolved it, and what the results were. I don't know what the exact letters stand for, but
Exactly.
you're just trying to figure out how they think about things. Yeah.
Yes. So let's say in the interview they're asking you, tell me about a time where you, I don't know, helped a client through a tough situation where maybe you had to do blah, blah, blah. So what you need to do now is at this specific point where they're asking you about that incident or a time when you did something, that's actually when you really do need to start using this. Because at that point you need to emphasize, oh, I did this, but then this happened. Then you had a pause. So you're almost, and that's where a part of storytelling also comes in. And you can do the storytelling so well by just adding that pause, by adding those pauses, because you're pacing the story step by step. For example, if I said, I woke up today in the morning and it was, I don't know, 7 a.m. and then I went to the bathroom, I brushed my teeth, blah, blah, blah. Then I don't know, I had breakfast. I had some, you know, and I don't know, I had a toast and what is it? What is that vegetable called again? It's that.
Avocado toast?
Yeah, exactly, avocado toast. That's right. I have avocado toast, which apparently stops me from getting a house and a mortgage and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah. How dare you?
And then on top of that, then what else did I do? You know, I got out, I start working right away. No, see, this has no real structure, and there's nothing really to draw people in. But if I instead just start adding pause and I said, oh, I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. What did I do? I went to the bathroom, as I always do. Next, I made breakfast, I had avocado toast, and then you won't believe what happened next. So just by making these small changes, I immediately started adding I started adding a bit of rhythm to what I'm saying. I added pacing as well. I paced through pauses. So I've added one part, the next section, the next section. But if all you did was just use a monotone way of speaking, and all you did was just go, oh no, this happened. Well, the problem is nobody's gonna listen, and they're gonna take you seriously, and they're not gonna understand what you did. Even if you saved a company from bankruptcy or whatever, well, nobody's going to know that or see how much of an impact you had until you add the impact with these techniques as well. So it's not just a matter of saying it, but it's how you're saying it. That's the key to all of this. And if that's just the one thing you take away from this workshop, then that is to not just focus on what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Because people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that all comes down to these techniques.
Absolutely. And emphasizing the results, like emphasizing the results of of what you got, especially in an interview, is super important. And just one more thing to say, like specifically about interviews and this, is that some roles, like operations roles or anything that's systems and process focused, it's okay to be looking like, because we do a lot of video ask interviews because the client can then review the interviews as well. So if you're doing something like that and it's a process driven role, it's okay to have some notes and be like kind of have a structure to it. But if you're interviewing for a creative role and you're trying to read off of something and you're not emphasizing the right places and you're, not doing the pauses and stuff, it comes off way worse than you just doing it off the cuff and like sharing your results. So, and always emphasize what your results are and the positives of it. And if you're in an interview, especially if you're doing a pre-recorded video interview, if it's a process-driven role, it's okay to have some notes and be working off of those. But if it's, a more creative role, we're just trying to understand how you think about things. And I think it's important to remember that and emphasize the important pieces of the problem you solved and what the result was.
Yeah, that's great advice. Totally. Because you're absolutely right. If it's an operations role, they want to see your sort of thinking behind that. If you've got the notes, and even if you're, let's say you're filming a video and you try and show them. It's a trick I learned from John Caprani on calls. He likes to almost visually show the pen that he's using to write down stuff. So, because on calls especially, because it just shows that he's writing down notes. And it's a case of he's not just looking down at something on his phone or something, he's actually taking notes. So that's like little visual tricks and cues that you can actually use to show people that you're taking notes, that you're doing this. Now, it'll be different depending on what you do. In an interview, it might not be appropriate. On a sales call, it might actually be appropriate because you're actually taking notes down about their business, what's different about them, and you're making it seem like you're actually interested in what they have to say. You're paying attention. And attention is one of the biggest, and if not the biggest currency we have right now, because if you can grab someone's attention, then it's not too hard if you do it right to then, well, take all their money and get them to open up their wallets or get their credit cards out or whatever the case is. And
get them to trust you and do what it is you want and need them to do that's going to help them and
absolutely. And the key to doing that a lot of people miss out on or don't think through is to do that, you need to help the other person get what they want to get what you want. So it's not a case of me helping myself to get what I want. It's a case of helping the other person get what they want to get what you want. And if you always approach it from that aspect or that mentality, that's going to take you so much more further than if all you thought about was all you can get, but just for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's huge. And that's a big part of, it's a big part of all of this. It's the big part of the interview. It's a big part of when you're creating content for people. And it's a big part of anything in marketing and really like with whether you're interviewing or you're developing content for your own products and offers or somebody else's, like it's all marketing yourself, your, image and what you're trying to convey and the knowledge that you're trying to use. And it always needs to be about the other person and how you're able to help them and the results that you can help them achieve. So we're going through some cold outbound outreach right now. And that is a big part of it, right? That we are, really trying to focus on too. So I think that that is helpful in a lot of ways. So please, let's hear more about the core techniques, the 3 core techniques.
Sure. So the last one is now, so I want to have them, I'll have them all here in front. So we talked about strategic pause, we talked about the emphasis rule, now we're talking about the downward inflection. So what is a downward inflection? What does that even mean? So a lot of us end our sentences like questions, and that makes you sound uncertain. So for example, if I was to say, I have 25 years of public speaking experience, that almost sounds like I'm questioning myself, like I'm almost asking you for validation for the experience that I should know that I have. There's no reason for me to ask you do I have 25 years experience? How the hell are you going to know, Michelle? You know, I'm the one who should know that. But we approach so much of what we do with that mentality or mindset, and that's going to hold us back. Now, the downward inflection, what that is the opposite of that. So we're not making it sound like a question at all. We're making it sound like a statement. We're adding some weight behind what we're saying. So if I was to say, I have 25 years of public speaking experience, there's no sound of question there. There's no sound of uncertainty. And all you can hear is conviction and confidence in what I'm saying, and that I truly believe what I'm saying. And that's the problem. If you come to an interview and you're thinking, oh no, I wonder how good all the other candidates are. Do they have more experience than me? Do they have other things that set them apart that are better than me? Do they have better case studies than me? But that's the thing. If you forget about all of that and all you think about is, how can I sound the most convincing and confident in my own skills, and be confident in my own skin, and know that everything I have to give is of value. And if you approach it with the mindset that I am the best candidate, whether they know it or not, I am the best candidate. And that comes back to a technique by Jay Abraham, an amazing marketer and entrepreneur, who once said that this all comes down to something called preeminence. So he talks about preeminence, which is the client wants something. So they have a goal or they want to do something better for their company. But preeminence is really wanting the best for them more than they want it for themselves. So in this case, when I talked to Michelle about doing this workshop, I was thinking about Michelle and her job board and her group. And I was thinking about how she could do something better, even more than she wanted for herself. So she might, for her job board, I want more people to come in. I want to attract more employers. I want to attract the best talent. And what's the best way to do that? By offering training on things that make or break a candidate. Because if you look at most candidates when they apply to a job, a lot of them in many cases will get through the door. So they'll get the foot in the door, but what lets them down? A lot of the time it'll be the interview, guaranteed. Because the CV and everything else, of course, people will have issues with that. But once they come to Michelle or some expert and she helps them clean it up or gives them advice, then the next step, the biggest hurdle holding them back is the interview. So if she wants more employers to get into a group and more people who are seeking good opportunities, what's the best way? What could she do even better? Well, she could have a training on how to show up confidently on camera so that people can film content and also show up to the interviews with more confidence. So what does that do? Number one, it helps people get better jobs because they're better at interview. Because what you'll find is a lot of the times employers will hire a bad hire. And why would they hire the bad hire? Because the person they interviewed extremely well. They were just bad at the job, but they were amazing at talking and yapping all day long, but yapping strategically because they know what to say. They know how to appear as an expert and how to sound confident. And that's the thing. So many of you are 10 times, 100 times better than these yappers. But the thing that's holding you back is that confidence. You're so much better than them, yet they're making more than you because you are this expert, but you have this imposter syndrome. You don't see yourself as an expert. And this may come across a little harsh, but the thing is, what you need to do is you need to grab yourself by the bootstraps that they call it, and really go through this and practice this, because this is your key to not only showing up more authoritatively and confidently on camera, but number two, you'll get much better job opportunities as a result, because you'll no longer see the interview as the place that's holding you back, and you'll no longer have the nerves that are stopping you from getting those amazing opportunities. And that's when it comes down to what these special focus areas. So number one, Zoom interviews that you have. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure, and this is a bit more of a technical side, but this is just as important, you need to make sure you have good lighting. Because the problem is, if you're in a really, and I'll demonstrate right now actually, if I turn this key light off, whoops. Here we go. So if I turn that off, well, you can't really see my face, can you? Even though I've got this little light over here. But as soon as I turn this on and I put on cold, look, I've got all these settings here. But what I'm saying is, now that's too bright. But if I put to this, look, you can start seeing my face again. But that's the thing. That's number one, lighting. Now, you don't actually, if you've got a light, that's great. If you don't, then what you can do is you can put the window behind. So the thing is, you want to have the camera, the light coming right into you. So what that's going to do is that's going to, well, make you more, will have the interviewer actually see your face and see how you're coming across and seeing all these micro expressions and you being able to look into the camera. And that's another actual big tip as well. So if I was, for example, on my laptop right now, so most of you, I'm actually shooting this from my 4K camera, my DSL camera. But let's say I was to change my camera right to my this one, isn't it? Boom. Yep. So this one, which is my Mac camera. So if I was, let's say, interviewing on my laptop camera, so you can see there's a drop in quality, but that's not a big deal. But the biggest thing is, now because I'm seated from my camera, you can see this isn't such a good position. So if I was able to do this, brought myself down a little bit, I'm now a bit more. I just look at the camera. And the other thing is, a lot of people when they're on Zoom or on any sort of messaging app, video communication app, whatever you want to call it. Losing my losing my mind here trying to explain what it is when everybody already knows what I'm trying to say. Now, look, if I start looking at the screen and I try to see Michele here, the problem is I'm not going to really have that eye contact and create that connection with you. But as soon as I start looking at the camera right here, you can see me straight away. I'm looking right at you and I'm talking to you. And I realize I'm not going to be able to see the other person as well because I'm focusing on the camera. But that doesn't actually matter too much because at some points you will have to look down anyway. That's fine. But for the most part, you want to be looking at the camera because Michele, can you tell me already, do you see that difference? Like if I'm looking at you right here and I'm seeing the same thing, but as soon as I look up and I look at the camera, I'm not even looking at you, I'm looking at the camera and I'm just pretending that's you and you're sitting right across from me and I'm speaking to you directly.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And especially like when I'm doing interviews or recordings and stuff like that. I mean, right now you're on the side here because of we have the slides up, but most of the time if I'm meeting with people in interviews and stuff, I try to keep their image towards the top of the screen. So it looks like I'm looking at the camera and I'm focused on them too. So I can also read their facial expressions and things like that. But yeah, it's super important. I've had people say, like whether you're recording for, content or you're in an interview, when you're looking all over the place, I've had people not like that at all. Like they'll say no to a candidate for that reason, or if you're doing recording content and stuff like that, it's also been it kind of shows, I guess it shows a bit of a sign of insecurity or unsure of what you're saying and what you're or just, I guess, isn't as it doesn't give off the authority vibes, yeah, as I'm doing that.
Absolutely, because right now as I'm looking right dead into the camera, it might look like I'm looking right into your soul, and you might be thinking, oh no. And the problem is another big thing that I come across. You're right, it is hard. And sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there. Were you about to say something?
No, I was just saying, like, I kind of do that too. Sometimes I try to like I look away, but I try to come back to the camera because it's just hard to do sometimes. It's hard to focus on the camera when, you want it helps your mind kind of think. But if you're like constantly like this, that does not look good for anybody. And it doesn't go well. That's all.
Absolutely. And look, that is a huge needle mover for people who might not be doing this, who are making the mistake of looking downwards and not actually looking at the camera, because they're losing all of that confidence and all of that conviction and all of that, everything that they need to do to be an authority by looking downwards, just by making that one simple mistake, and also looking all around and being nervous and everything that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the lighting thing, like you said too, like I always sit in front of a window because it's nice to look outside and kind of gives your mind a break from the screen time too, which also helps kind of rejuvenate, I think, a little bit if you can look away every so often. But it also helps with the lighting and everything too. So the way you position yourself in front of a camera matters just as much in a virtual interview or interaction as it does in an in-person one. So you always have to kind of remember that. And that includes like how you're dressing and everything else. I'm not saying that you have to be like super fancy, but maybe like wear a shirt unless your brand is like abs and people watch me to talk about my abs, then that's one thing and you're talking to your audience in an ad script, but even those guys usually aren't. shirtless. So,
Pro tip, if in doubt, do not come shirtless.
oh no, I've had that happen and it's it's
Oh, wait, are you
weird.
serious? I was just saying that as a joke. If people actually showed up shirtless.
Oh yeah, they recorded an interview shirtless because it was a fitness program. Yeah. Yeah, more than once.
Wow.
But aside from that, presentation matters, whether you're recording for, an interview, or you're doing a live interview, or you're going to be, recording via sales content, webinars, any of that. Like, your presentation matters because you're showing up with respect in the same way that you want them to show up for you. And that means, showing up in your best light, showing up with your full presence and your ability to be focused and clear on them, just as you would wish for them to be on you.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And here's the thing, everybody watching, if you're watching this, Michele is just giving all this away, and this is based on years of her experience as how would I put it, a recruiter or a...
I've been doing a lot of different things. I've been building marketing operations teams for over 10 years remotely, and building online businesses and stuff. But now I help with primarily with the team building side. So yeah, team
Well, there you
growth
have it.
specialist, let's call
Michele,
it.
you've got all this wealth of experience, and you're giving it all away. You're giving them everything they need to show up on camera confidently and how to do it right. Because there's so many things that most of the candidates will never hear back from the interviewer that they will actually tell you.
Oh yeah. And they don't often want me to tell. They sometimes ask me not to tell because they're being extra conscious about it. So I'll have to, I try to give feedback in a way that it's not coming from the client as much as I can, but I can't always give every detail. So sometimes I'll write about it, or I'll share about it in the job board and stuff like that.
Great. And here's one other thing as well when it comes to an interview or a sales call, especially when someone asks you a question. So if Michele was to come to me with a question, and even if it's a question that stumps me and I'm not sure how to answer it, an immediate reaction for most people is going to be immediately answering it and saying, oh, okay, oh, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the way you want to approach it at all. What you want to say is, okay, that's a good question, Michele. So on that matter, so you want to actually slow yourself down, because if someone asks you a question and, I don't know, Michele, ask me a question that might stump me. Without trying to humiliate me on this, on this call.
Ooh, all right. How about, do you know what the number one CO2 absorber and oxygen output is on Earth?
Well, Michele, that's an incredibly interesting question, because you see the Earth. Now, do you see, I'm just yapping at this point. But here's the thing, I know that I don't know the answer. But just because I don't know doesn't mean I have to get nervous and have to get all red as a tomato. And that's the key. See,
Yeah.
Even if you don't know the answer to a question, that's okay. And Michele probably has better advice for me in terms of the interview process because of all your experience. But what I would say is the first port of call you want to use is to pause first. Don't answer the question right away. Don't start talking. Just pause and say, well, blah, blah, blah. Or use some sort of connecting word to then start. Say, oh, that's a great question. Well, you see, blah, blah, blah. That's what you want to do. That's the approach you want to bring. Because, Michele, if I answered your question, I started just speaking really fast and just really just going on and on and on, well, you're immediately going to realize that I don't know what I'm talking about. And you're going to understand that this guy is just yapping and he has no substance behind what he's saying. But if you actually take a second to pause and breathe and then start answering the question, then you'll be in a position where you actually can salvage it and you can actually answer it with some level of understanding that they'll be able to take from your answer.
Absolutely. And I would also say that it's okay to take that pause to, respond in that way, and then also come around to, this is what I think it could be, but I would love to look into it more. I like to research, and, I have the resources to figure it out. If you don't know something, I'd rather somebody say, I don't specifically know the answer to that exact question, but I know how to figure it out. This is how I've solved it in the past, some similar questions in the past and things like that. So that's always important too. And I think, whether you're if you're, getting a live Q&A like that, I'd assume that most of them aren't going to be quite as off of your typical topic as my question was. But for the most part, I think that you can always, give that pause and that kind of slower response like that. I think that's really helpful.
Well, great words of wisdom from you there. And here's another thing. Here's one last thing actually that I want to mention when it comes to the interview. When it comes to your case studies, when it comes to experiences, when it comes to everything that sets you apart and everything that's different about you, you need to know them like the back, really like the back of your hand. You need to know them incredibly well to a T. You need to have it down, you need to understand it to a point where it's not memorized, where you're not remembering it, where you're not reading off a script, but it's something that you know to your core. So, for example, if I was to ask Michele, what's your, let's say, best case study when it comes to helping operations teams or helping teams build themselves? If you answer the question and you say, well, Umar, there was this one time where there was this client and I think they were from. So if you start answering the question like this, you're going to lose all your credibility because you don't, or at least some of it, because you're answering it like you don't actually know what you're talking about. But if I was to ask you and you can start telling me, boom, 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 this happened, and you're doing it slowly, you're pacing yourself, you're not speaking really fast, then I'm immediately going to know that you're an expert at what you do. So that's the thing that you need to understand when you come to any sales call or any interview, that you need to know exactly what makes you different, what the case studies you have, the experiences you have. If you're applying with a CV, understand, you read through your whole CV, make sure if they ask you anything about that CV, if there's any holes in it, if there's any point that they want to ask you about, you need to have an answer for it. And you can even prepare the answer, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't try and memorize the answer. And instead, try and understand everything that you've done and everything that you would add or mention in the answer. Once you know that, then it doesn't matter what type of question they ask, you know what you're going to say, you know everything that you could mention, and you yourself will be able to answer it coherently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's really a helpful and positive way of saying that. And also when you're doing case studies, if you're in an interview or something like that, try to have, try not to use the same one for every response. You can have different, especially if you have the experience from multiple sources that you can kind of pull from. It's harder to gauge your entire experience when you're only giving examples from one specific case study. So knowing your case studies, knowing what they are, always tracking your results, always having that information. I mean, that's helpful when you're creating content too, because you need to be able to relate to people why you're an expert in this and how you got to this kind of conclusion and we're able to help people with this and things like that. So I think that's a really great point to have been made. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's great advice, Michele. Now, here's the thing. So even when it comes to content creation and the interviews, the biggest piece of advice I would have for you is to create a personal wins document. So this is it, and I'm actually going to show you, I have a guide that will help you do that, and that's for free, which I'll be showing you at the end, where you create a document with all your wins and you list out everything. And here's the thing, you don't even need to write it all yourself. All you need to do is, you can even open up something like ChatGPT or Claude and just start talking. And it's like what I like to call a verbal vomit, where you just keep talking on and on and on and on and on, almost like a word dump, where you're just dumping everything you know into that. Then what you'll do is you'll get ChatGPT to clean it up and put it into a doc or a document format with different structures and different headings for different sections of it. Then now you have something that's really impeccably put together and really clean and structured. So you can read through and understand every single section, and it's all neatly put together. So what can you do then? That's your personal wins document. And what you'll do before any interview, before any sales call, before any time you put content together, you're going to read that personal wins doc. Because if you're nervous, if you're not confident, if you're worried, well, why should I be filming this content? I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Just read that wins document and pretend it's not even you. Pretend it's somebody else's wins that you're reading about. And then you'll get to a point where you're actually really shocked and surprised that, oh yeah, I did do this. I achieved that. I did this, I did that. Because there's so much that we've achieved that we don't even remember half the time because we don't have it written down. We don't have it in front of us to refer to. So if we have something to refer to all the time, that only takes 5 minutes before every single sales call or interview or recording content, that will get you to the point where you don't even need it anymore because you've read it so many times. And then anytime you have something extra special, like a really important interview coming up that you really want to prep for, and you really want to show up as a real authority and a real expert to really show off how good you are, then you read that doc again, you go through it, you properly understand all those points, and then you relate to it when you're on that interview or call. And that
Also,
brings
if you're
me to
feeling
this.
down or unsure about yourself, those docs help a ton. I think it was John Caprani or Matthew Valquin that suggested just taking screenshots of like wins and stuff like that and just dumping them in a folder. So when you're like kind of feeling poopy, I have a folder of those, as well as I keep a couple on my desktop that like remind me to do the things that I'm trying to do. But I want to try this win document that you have, so I'm excited to see the opt-in chat GPT kind of thing you got there, because yeah, it'd be cool to see like all of it at once as just an ego booster reminder when we focus so much on the negative, to see the positives that we have done and recognize our own skill set and our own knowledge is actually really valuable.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, when you start using all these techniques, that's when you go from before being a nervous speaker, not really knowing what you're saying, not knowing what you bring to the table, and really those nerves just taking over you, and you don't have, and it's holding you back from amplifying who you are and really bringing out your true self, to then getting to the point where after using these techniques, you're now a magnetic authority. And so if someone, and that comes down to exactly that personalized document and knowing all your case studies and knowing everything like the back of your hand, because before you would have been saying, oh, so I help people with business and, it really works and I've got the system, blah, blah, blah. Afterwards, what's going to happen is you're going to say, I help entrepreneurs. I help them. What I do, I either write copy, so I help them with their marketing. I help them putting their teams together. I help them with their, or if your company like a Stripe, let's say competitor, I help them with their financing, with being able to collect money, but without worrying about any of the regulations or getting shut down. Like, you're really able to really put to words and really emphasize and really make your audience and the people you're speaking to understand who you are, and you're saying it with so much confidence and conviction that they have no other thing to do than to believe you, to be bought into you, bought into your solution, and bought into everything you do. And when that happens, then you'll have their attention. Then they'll be opening their wallets and then they'll trust you enough that they can then open up their wallets or get their credit card out to buy from you. And that's what happens, because right now we're in that trust recession, especially if you're a coach or an expert, and you really want to sell something of yours. You really want to sell a course, sell a workshop, sell a low ticket offer, whatever it is. That all comes down to having the confidence in yourself to do this, because this comes down to even mindset as well, because one of the biggest hurdles to really getting what you want and getting everything you want out of life really comes down to mindset and understanding that if somebody else has done it, well, why can't I? If someone, when the minute mile was crossed by, I don't know how many minutes, it was like 7 minutes or whatever that it took to run a mile, after that point, other people started doing it. And there were a whole bunch of people who had achieved it. Why? Because now they could see something that was actually possible. They, with their own eyes, they'd seen someone who had achieved it. But before, it wasn't achieved because people simply thought it couldn't be done. So if you can really look into yourself, and it takes some introspection, and you really look into what makes you different, you really understand why people should listen to you and why you are the best coach or expert or candidate or whatever it is, you're the best suited for this potential client or job or whatever you're looking to achieve, then you'll be able to show up with your true self. You'll really be able to amplify that personality, and it will shine through the camera, and that will draw other people in. That's the key to achieving this right here, becoming that magnetic authority, by mastering the mindset and the technique side of things. Once you master both, that is when you're in the perfect position to achieve this. And that brings us to this 24-hour challenge. We're near the end now. So what I want you to do is I want you to record a 30-second video introducing yourself using all these techniques. What you might want to do is record one video where you slow down, another where you pause, another where you use emphasis, and then one last one where you use a downward inflection. And then after you've practiced those, then you can record a 30-second video where you try and use all those together at once, where you're speaking slowly, using the pause, down inflection, and emphasizing everything. And then you want to also practice what I call the signature introduction. So you don't need to say this to anybody, or you don't need to actually say this even when you're on a podcast or a call or anything, but it's something like a statement that you know inside of you that you bring to the table. So I'm a confidence coach, and I help people overcome everything that holds them back from being confident on camera, so that they can be trusted, so that people can buy into them and their solution in record time, so they can. So that's the thing you want to do. You want to have that signature introduction, because once you have that signature introduction, you'll know exactly what you do. And then out of that, you can start picking out certain points when you talk to people and you explain what you do. And when they ask questions, it'll be a culmination of this. It'll come out of this. And why this matters. So lastly, if you took one thing away from this call, like I said, that would be to understand that, first of all, you need to slow down. That's the number one key. You slow down, and next of all, have that mindset of serving. Because when I do this public speaking, when I'm on calls, on podcasts, on workshops, whatever I'm doing, I come across I'm using that mentality of serving humanity with this skill that I have. I'm sharing this skill with the world. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. So in reality, I'm not going to ask myself, oh, am I going to mess up? Oh, how did people think I did? Oh, is Michele impressed in the performance that I gave today in the workshop that I did with the way I came across? No. What I'm going to ask myself is, did I give it my all? Did I do my best? Did I do as much prep as I could for this to show up confidently with conviction and clarity and being coherent at all times when I'm explaining anything? And lastly, did I try to perfect what I'm doing as much as possible? Without being a perfectionist, did I try and perfect it? Did I perfect my approach, my slides, my prep? Did I do everything the best that I could? And when you approach it from that position and with that mentality, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Then it doesn't actually matter what you think. It doesn't matter what Michele thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, because I know that I gave it my all. I did the best that I could. And that's the most that anybody can expect from me. That's the position you want to be, the mentality, the outlook, and the perspective you want to have. And remember, every expert was once a beginner. The difference is they practiced until the techniques became natural. And that goes for any skill, anything you're working on right now, whether it's camera confidence or anything else you're trying to get better at. It applies all the same. So what's next? Practice. That's all you need to do. Film yourself and just keep looking to see how much you're getting better at applying these techniques. That's all you need to do. And it doesn't need to be anything where you're spending hours and hours a day. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day is all it takes to get better at this. As long as you do it every single day, within a matter of weeks or even a month, you'll already see that difference. And if you keep going on, well, you'll only get better and better at it. And that brings me to my 2 free bonuses. So the number one thing that I want to give to you is the pre-sales call prep. So that goes for whether you're on a sales call or an interview or even just recording content. I know it says pre-sales call, but it works for all of those. It's all the same techniques. And the next one is the 3-step camera confidence formula. So I'll actually go into the first one. And Michele, if you have anything to add before I go into this.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm excited to, see more and also, work on this myself. I've been wanting to do more public speaking type stuff. So it would be really useful to have these assets. I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. So here's the first guide. It's called the pre-sales call prep. So this is what I do. So I said, create a doc with the following information: the origin story, the results you've achieved, specialized experience. So all you need to do is you need to take this. All you do is you create that, take that, you copy that, and then you put that into ChatGPT. Then what you do is you tell ChatGPT now, and then you speak, and then you say, I am now going to get you to make a doc, and I'm going to say all the following that I've mentioned above. And then you just start speaking. And then you mention every single point. And then at the end, you say, please turn this into a neat doc that's separated into sections that I can use to prepare for every single sales call or interview I have in the future. And what that'll do is it'll give you a nice little clean doc, and then you'll have something to work off of. And then you'll read this every time before you have a sales call or interview, or you're filming content. And you'll use that to give you that motivation boost and to really understand your positioning and why they should listen to you. The next thing is breathing. So you need to make sure you breathe. So that one trick I learned from Andrew Huberman is to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth like you're breathing out through a straw. So just really, and once you do that, what it does is it calms your nervous system. That's the biggest secret to this. Once you can calm your nervous system, then you can actually get back into consciously doing what you're doing. Because when you're panicking, you can't really think straight, and it's going to mess with your head. And a lot of this is also pretty much what we've covered on this call already, so that you can go through that. Then the next one is the 3-step camera confidence formula. That's already covered what I've talked about before, the 3 techniques. And I also have a little course I put together. So that's a YouTube video of my course. So you can either click on that, open up on YouTube, or you can just click here and then it'll play in this window right here. So that's a little 15-minute course that I put together that also talks about all those 3 techniques. So not only can you just read, you can either read through it, or you can just watch me talk about it as well. And the great thing with this is you can just consider it a podcast, just listen to it, whenever you're doing your chores or whatever you're doing on a walk, whatever the case is. So these are those 2 guides that I put together. I didn't want to make them super long. They're just going to give you everything you need. And when I share these slides with you, they're right at if I can exit this, they'll be right on the last page here on this page right here, 2 free bonuses. Just click on them and then they'll open a new tab and then you'll be able to refer to them there.
Perfect. And we'll drop these slides in the description for this call. Whether you're watching it in the job board community or on YouTube, we'll make sure that they're in there. What's the best way for them to contact you outside of these bonuses here?
Sure. So the best way to contact me is on Facebook. You can also add that link to the description as well.
Perfect. Absolutely, I will do. And just to confirm, you also help coach people one-on-one with this. I mean, you've had some really great testimonials supporting people coaching their public speaking ability.
Absolutely. So I've had the opportunity to do one-on-one coaching with some of the most accomplished coaches and experts out there. And I've helped them really change how they show up on stage, how they show up even when they're filming content. And that's the thing. And here's the thing about what I do when I do one-on-one coaching. It's nothing, I'm not coming with any of my own approach to this, first of all. All I'm doing is it's 100% tailored to what you need. So I'm not coming with my own sort of modules and approach and everything that I bring. No, I'm going to ask you what you want to get out of this. So even if it's camera confidence, or even if you think, hang on, I want to be good at camera confidence, but I also want to be good at public speaking. Well, that's what I do too. And it doesn't matter whether you're filming content, VSLs, webinars, and even if, let's say you're not even a coach, if you want to be better at interviews, if you want to be great on sales calls, whatever the case is, everything that I teach is 100% tailored to what you do. And then based on what you're looking for, then I will give you that advice that will work for you. And it works on balancing, again, the mindset and the camera confidence techniques. And here's the thing, if you go through this course right here, this will give you a taster of what it's like to be on a one-on-one call with me, because I basically take what I teach on the one-on-one calls and I put it into this course. Now, it's not going to be tailored to you specifically, because I'm just talking about the overall techniques and general things that I teach. But what it will do is give you an insight into how what I do on these calls.
I love it. I love it. And can I just say, it would be super cool to have a little listening of Umar before you go live on one of these calls, just pumping you up. Like, I feel like that is just such an asset of, like, your personality and your just who you are and how you're able to inspire and lead and also support people in their public speaking in the moments where it's the scariest, when they're feeling like they're having a hard time. I think that having your support and confidence and everything you've shared here has been incredibly valuable. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. I'll make sure that all of your information is dropped into the description of all of this. So if anybody's looking, it's Umar. And on Facebook, last name is spelled Kho. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Kho. Yep, that's it. You'll add the link in the description anyway, so they can reach me there.
Perfect. Sounds great. I really appreciate, and we'll also drop the slides as well as the camera confidence pre-sale call prep and the 3-step camera confidence formula. So I really appreciate you being here. Can I ask you one last question?
Absolutely, go ahead.
All right. What is one thing that anybody who is first getting started on this journey, like if you could go back in time and tell your younger self this, what do you think they would need to hear?
So the thing they would need to hear is that you need to understand that it's not an overnight success kind of thing. It's not something where you can just. Now, a lot of people would like you to think that you can just become this charismatic and captivating personality who can just stand up and speak anytime and grab attention. And that is possible, don't get me wrong. But it's not something you can just do right away. It's going to take time for you to implement this. Because what I tell my one-on-one clients, even after that coaching call, even after they've got that mindset right, even after they know the techniques, the secret is to implement. So all of this information that I gave you, it's great. But the problem is, if all you do is just read it and you're just scrolling through and you're saying, oh, okay, that looks good, but you're not actually implementing any of this, then you're not going to be able to become that person you want to become, that individual who's confident, who shows up with conviction, who people know is an authority because of the way you hold yourself and the way you show up. That all comes down to implementing this. And the easiest way to do that, every single day, just pull out your phone and just start recording. And here's the thing, because authentic content is really working so well right now, the best thing for you to do is to do that. Because I was speaking to somebody just last week on a podcast, and she mentioned that whenever she scripts videos and posts them on TikTok, they don't actually seem to do that well. But as soon as she just pulls her phone out and starts recording and does it totally off the cuff, that's when the videos go a little viral, when they get engagement, when they do well. So that's the secret to all this, to implement. And the way to implement is so easy. Just get your phone out. And here's another pro tip. Don't do it all in one single place. So I've got one sort of, let's say, this home studio right here. I've got my desk up on that side there, so I can film there as well. Let's say I go out to a nice park, I can film there as well. Let's say I'm in my car. That's an amazing spot to film because lots of people film reels in their car now. So you can film that in your car as well. Just film, just get, whenever you have a thought, whenever you're thinking about something and you think it might be worthwhile to share it, just pull out your phone and start recording. That's the secret to it.
I love it. I love it. It's the imperfect action of it, I guess, as well as the authenticity and just getting what's on your mind out there and helping people by sharing what it is you know. So this has been really great. I really appreciate you coming here and talking to us today. And we'll make sure that everybody can connect with Umar after this. So thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Well, have a lovely day, everybody.
See you later, guys.